Namaste and welcome to today's session of the webinar, Winning 2030 Through Technology. We are extremely delighted to have industry expert Sachin Raverkar ji with us, who will talk us through the topic. Sachin ji is a dairy and food processing engineer from IIT Kharagpur and is currently working as Director of Sales at GIA India. He brings more than 25 years of experience working with various organizations providing technology-based process solutions to dairy, food, beverages, and allied industries. Welcome to the session, Sachinji. So why this topic is so important? So
Prashant, you are on mute.
I think someone. Okay, so I think I'm not sure where I got muted. So today we have Sachinji with us. Sachinji is an industry professional and has more than 25 years of experience. He's a food process engineer from IIT Kharagpur and is currently working as Director of Sales at GIA India. And why this topic is so important and why we are so happy to have Sachinji with us today. So India, we're talking about next 10 years. India of 2030 would be significantly different from India of today. It would be a $6 to $10 trillion worth of economy. That means the consumer would have much more money to spend. Also, the consumer demographic would be very different from what we see today. Consumer would have much more requirement for nutrition. We would also have a significant aging and middle-aged population that would require healthy nutrition and healthy and naturally occurring nutrition. And this is where dairy will have to play a very pivotal role. And now, we would actually ask Sachinji to walk us through what are some of the technologies that are coming in, and that we might see in the coming 10 years. That would actually help us ensure every Indian has access to a naturally occurring nutrition, a sustainable nutrition, a nutrition that is going to make India a thriving nation of 1.5 billion people by 2030. Welcome to the session, Sachinji.
Thank you, Prashant, for your introduction and setting the context for this webinar. So, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving us the opportunity to present the technologies for the future, especially in the next decade. And we see GIA as an organization has a very important role to play. So I will start my presentation and I'll be happy to take the questions at the end of the session. Just a very brief about how GIA is connected to everyday life. So we are one of the largest companies providing process solutions for the dairy, food, and beverage industries. So whether it is the daily milk you drink every day, or you drink coffee, you have chicken nuggets, some way or the other, GIA is connected, with your everyday life. So we have a very important role to play in terms of providing the right technological solutions, which connects to most of the consumers every day in one way or the other. Our mission definitely is we strive to be our mission is we strive to be world's most respected technology group, offering cutting-edge technology solutions for sustainable process that improve people's everyday lives. So that is our mission, and we definitely work towards this. That is our endeavor, where whatever projects we do, we work with this philosophy. So I'll just give you a perspective of the dairy value chain. How the milk, it starts from milk being received through milk tankers, right? So you can see the milk received in tankers, and then you have uh, it will start, of course, a bit backwards. Like you have dairy farms. Like in India, of course, we don't have much bigger dairy farms, but that concept is now improving. You have a bigger size of herd. So it starts with the dairy farm. The milk is collected, it is transported. So it could be small farms or even individual farmers having two or three uh, animals. Then it is collected and taken in tankers and collected and taken to what we call village collection societies or bulk milk coolers, where the milk is stored for some time until such if you have generated good volumes, then it is transported from the village collection societies through road milk tankers. It comes to the dairy plant. So that's a composite dairy plant, which you can see in the slide here. And in the dairy plant, the milk is processed into either it is milk or milk based products. So you have a host of products which you can make out of milk. And then the last chain, the last in the value chain is the consumer, which we get in terms of finished products every day, either at our doorstep in terms of fresh milk, or we buy all the products which we know, typically cheese, butter, yogurt, and other sort of value based products. So this is a complete value chain for a dairy, and GIA is having technologies across all most of these processes, which you can see on the slide. So whether it's starting from the milk farm, dairy milk farming, or bulk milk collection in bulk milk coolers, you have various unit operations which you see in the dairy industry, whether it is pasteurizing, homogenizing, making cheese, making different sort of yogurts, butter, ghee, and even bottling. So we are connected to the entire value chain, also including some of the service requirements like refrigeration. So I'll just give you a perspective of how the milk production has grown and what are the projections in the next 10 years. So we see India, of course, continues to remain number one in terms of milk production in the world. And we are projecting a growth of almost 4.5% CAGR per annum in terms of milk production. And the consumption is also expected to grow on similar lines. Rather, it is slightly higher than the production rate. So we have a consumption of CAGR of 5% year on year. So as of now, India is slightly surplus in terms of production as compared to the consumption. But going to the next decade of 2030, we'll see that the consumption will slightly be higher than the production. So we are seeing that the consumption is also rising at a very fast pace, and it is very well supported by the robust milk production which we are experiencing year on year. So all these figures you can see are in million metric tons. So as of now, we stand at a figure of around close to 196 million metric tons. That's the milk production in India. And our projection is it should be reaching somewhere around 304 million metric tons by the end of 2030. Now, how much milk India has added per decade? So if you can see, in the decade between 2000 and 2010, approximately 70 million, 27 million metric tons have been added. And the decade which we are seeing from 2020 to 2030, in this decade, India will be adding almost close to 100 million metric tons. So, which means that currently we have a share of 22% in the global milk production, and that will rise to approximately 30%. And that gives us a huge investment opportunity for setting up a robust dairy infrastructure for India. Now, what is driving all this growth in terms of higher milk production and also the milk consumption, which is catching up with the production and even going beyond or going ahead of the milk production by 2030? So there are three major aspects to this, which is driving the market. We are seeing there's a major landscape change in milk processing. So there's a shift of milk processing from the unorganized to the organized sector. And we have seen this happening very rapidly, especially during the COVID situation 2020. where we see a lot of uh, consumers buying value-added products from the organized segment, because even the unorganized segment was badly affected. But the consumer has shifted their consumption pattern, going from the unorganized to the organized segment. And we have seen that it has got a boost during this COVID times, and it will continue. It will be even better off in the future as well. We are seeing a significant buying behavior shift in the consumers. So because of higher purchasing power of middle class, we are seeing an increase in the consumption of dairy products. Like if we just have to relate how much butter or cheese we were consuming, say 15-20 years back, and what is the consumption now, we can see significantly it has increased in our daily eating habits, whether it's our breakfast or meals. There's a significant increase in the intake of dairy products. Then there's a better informed consumers. There's a lot of focus on health and awareness, health and wellness, and this awareness is definitely driving the dairy consumption, dairy products consumption. So there's a paradigm shift from the consumers, even the youngsters, from carbonated beverages to health and wellness products. That's a very good trend, because it is improving the health of the youth of the country as well, and improving the awareness towards health and wellness. And the third and the most important point is the sustainable solutions. So there's a big focus now on sustainability. We have a COP26, this climate summit in Glasgow, I think in this weekend, where a lot of most of the major countries are participating and trying to see how we can really work towards sustainable solutions. And we have a major role to play in terms of offering sustainable solutions with a minimal impact on the environment, and a lot of focus on energy conservation. So these things are driving the technology in the Indian market. Now, how it is unfolding in terms of what is happening on the ground. So when we say there's a landscape change in the milk processing, we see an increasing trend of companies establishing mega dairy plants. And when we say mega dairy plants, is plants exceeding capacity of 1 million liters per day. So this was one of phenomena, say 5 years back. Now we are seeing a lot of consumers, a lot of customers who are trying to establish big size dairy plants. And one more important aspect which has been noticed is there's a lot of flexibility and versatility in terms of product processing lines. So the milk lines which are being established are able to process a variety of products within the same lines. These plants are fully automated with the a lot of focus on the hygiene part of it, and eliminating all the manual interventions and downtime. So we see that in some cases there's a 24/7 handling milk intake in most of the cooperative and private segments, and the suppliers can hardly afford any downtime or maintenance breakdowns. And in order to minimize the losses, people have understood the importance of automation. And we see in most of these plants, these are fully automated plants where there is hardly any manual intervention. Another focus has been on the increasing of the yield and the expansion in the existing processing lines. So a lot of plants which were established in the past were manual plants with old technologies, and there's a lot of focus on even improving those plants in terms of going for automation and also process improvements. So just to give an example of how it is unfolding in terms of what is happening on the ground. So we have milk pasteurization lines of capacity more than 50,000 liters per hour. Now, this was something which was unheard of maybe 5 years back or 10 years, 7 years back, when people were talking about 20,000 or 30,000 liters per hour. So 50,000 liters per hour processing line, if it runs for say around 18 to 20 hours in a day, we are able to handle close to 1 million liters of milk through a single processing line. We have seen a trend where customers are putting up large capacity milk drying plants. And when I say customers, it is customers to companies like us. So basically, all the dairy cooperatives or people in the private segment, multinational companies. So large capacity milk drying plants are being set up. Uh, Capacity is exceeding 100 tons a day production, which was again unheard of a few years back. These plants are running 24 hours in a day. Earlier trend was to run the plants on 20 hours a day, but now even the 4 hours, which was typically given for cleaning of the plant. So there's a demand to increase the running time from 20 hours to 24 hours. So there's again ways and means of doing it through technology advancements. Remote troubleshooting, and that's what we again witnessed during the COVID times. This is again a major factor which is impacting the increased production, because customers don't want to wait for any maintenance engineers to come to the plant. So since most of these plants are automated, even troubleshooting remotely is possible. The design of the equipments is now meeting the most stringent standards in terms of hygiene, because a lot of potential for exports, and India is also looking up to other markets other than the traditional markets of Africa and Middle East for their exports. And of course, in order to have the uh, best return on investments, we're looking for minimizing the losses and putting up high efficiency lines so that the consumers get the best of the product at the most reasonable cost. And being a technology provider, we have a major role to play in this. Another market driver which we see is the buying behavior shift in the consumers. So there's a lot of focus on value-added products, and there's an increasing demand for ready-to-eat products. Uh, One more thing which has again significantly changed the consumption pattern is focus on nutrition. So we have products which are demand for products with high in proteins and low in carbohydrates. So that's trend we are seeing. So some of the examples which we see for value-added products which are looking really big in terms of increased consumption, flavored milks, smoothies instead of plain milk. Then you have a variety of yogurts, starting from fruit yogurts, flavored yogurts, which is replacing the traditional dahi, plain dahi. There's a demand increase for low lactose milk. There's a significant population which is having lactose intolerance, so people are not able to digest milk. So we have seen an increased demand from consumers looking for technologies for producing low lactose milk. In terms of increasing the protein content, we have seen traction in the field of Greek style yogurts. So basically yogurts with high protein content, especially from health conscious consumers. Then milk is also taking a bigger part in terms of breakfast, because earlier milk was one of the supplement for a breakfast, but milk based cereals are one of the potential having most potential in terms of being used for breakfast. So we have milk with cereals which can be ready to eat products for especially for the children and the younger generation. We are seeing a spurt in terms of higher shelf life products, consumption of higher shelf life products, so products which are typically having a shelf life of say 3 months or 6 months in terms of shelf life, and that too at ambient temperatures. And one of the significant segment for the products which we are seeing again a growth is the whey based drinks. And whey is the byproduct which you get from manufacturing of cheese or paneer. So everybody would have witnessed that during the production of paneer, especially in house, you get a sort of greenish liquid, which we call whey. And that whey, especially from the what is obtained during the cheese manufacturing, is very rich in proteins. So whey-based drink and whey-based products are looking very bright in terms of consumption. So if you have to identify in short, the category which is seeing a lot of interest is high protein whey drinks, high protein fermented products. So this is giving both the flexibility in terms of taste as well as nutrition, and nutritional products like whey powders or high calcium milk or high protein milk. milk powders, which are seeing a lot of interest from the consumers as well. So just to give a idea of how these products are growing in terms of consumption. So we are seeing high shelf life products. There is a CAGR of around 17% going from 2012 to 2025, and this trend will again keep on improving. And similar trends we are seeing in most of the almost all the products, whether it's flavored milk or whey products or frozen and flavored yogurts. So all these categories are seeing a double digit growth, and of course starting from a small base, but even when the base is increasing, we are still continuing the growth in that pattern. So value added products which combines nutrition with taste and convenience, I think that is the catchword in terms of consumers choice going forward. Another important aspect in terms of what is driving technology and what will be, the outlook for 2030 is sustainability. So we have now consumers looking for plants which are having least water consumption, or in fact zero waste processing or zero water consumption. A lot of focus on energy conservation, so reduced emission losses, reduced power consumption, steam consumption, recovery of water which can be used, which is generated during the processing. A lot of chemicals are being used for cleaning the plant, so how these chemicals can be recovered and reused. Brine is used for production of cheese, so again, how can this brine be reused and not be drained? And emission losses, especially for products like milk powder plants or whey powder plants, where there is emission into the atmosphere, and how we can reduce these losses. Now, what technologies can be used to reduce these losses? Now, having covered the segment of the product, what is driving the growth in terms of products and what the consumer is looking for, we have to definitely supplement that with the right technology solutions in context of sustainability, in context of giving high valued products at cheaper cost and with the right nutrition. So when we talk about high capacity milk processing lines, we see pasteurizers, milk separators. So separators are basically equipments which will separate the excess fat by standardizing milk. We have homogenizers, which are used for either recombined milk or even fresh milk, to reduce the size of the fat globules. So these modules, which you can see on the slide, are all very modular units. They can be easily installed and even shifted from one place to the other. So in terms of sustainability, the technology is definitely helping us to reduce the fat losses when we separate the excess fat out of the milk. We see that there is no loss of fat in the during this desludging operation, which goes some amount of sludge is removed from the milk, and we see to it that there is less or minimum losses of fat in terms of these drainages. In terms of improving the energy efficiency, we have operations like homogenizers, which consume a lot of power. So we have come across, we have technologies, or we have designs which is, consuming less power. So less power per liter of milk being homogenized. Also, there are partial homogenizers which are installed so that your power consumption is less and you are able to reduce the cost of production. Remote troubleshooting, that is also a very important aspect, that these high capacity lines can be troubleshooted remotely so that there's minimum downtime and the consumers do not face problems of plant shutdowns. In terms of versatility of product lines, we have milk powder manufacturing technology. So we have design of plants, for example, a single dryer is designed for different products. So it could be skim milk powder or dairy whitener or whole milk powder, even baby food. So if it is known at a design stage that these are some of the products which will be manufactured at present and some of the products which could be manufactured in future, we can design these dryers accordingly so that the consumer has got flexibility in terms of manufacturing multiple products in the same plant. And even a milk dryer, for example, can also be designed to handle whey products. So whether it is making whey protein concentrates of different category, different grades, so it's possible to make even the whey products in a milk dryer. Then, in terms of design of the evaporators, which is again an important part of the drying plant, we have a thermal vapor recompression or a mechanical vapor recompression technologies. Depending on the availability of power, for example, if the power availability is very good, then we go for mechanical vapor recompression. So this helps reduce the size of the building and size of the plant. So you have lesser investment in terms of civil works. And one very important aspect is customers are looking for end-to-end solutions. So it's not only limited to one particular technology like drying or evaporation. What needs to be done upstream of the drying or evaporation and what needs to be done downstream. So that way we are able to offer technologies which are helpful in treating the entire process end to end. So the moment the waste generated to the point it is dried and even packed, so we are able to offer solutions on this product as well. Just to put a point in perspective, whey was something which was sort of treated as a nuisance. Some 10 or 15 years back, people were having a lot of problems in handling whey, and that was one of the deterrent in terms of putting up cheese or paneer plants. But now the trend has totally reversed. People are looking for whey as one of the main product because there's a big demand for whey powders, for nutraceuticals, for for being added as ingredients in baby food. So whey proteins has found a lot of interest from the consumers. In terms of sustainability for drying technology, we have high efficiency cyclones and back filters. So we have reduced the emission losses. So this is helping in two ways. One is to reduce the impact on the environment, and also that the consumer is recovering most of the product which is generated as fines. So one more point to highlight is customers are looking for large capacity plants because instead of having multiple plants of smaller capacities, which will increase their operating cost, they're looking for large capacity plants. Uh, we have the largest capacity plant in India as of now is 150 tons per day of milk powder. And I think in near future, it will not be a surprise for us if we look for a plant which is producing 200 tons per day or even 300 tons per day of milk powder. Very huge plants. Customers are looking for, are thinking in that direction. Another technology which is definitely helping the consumers in terms of versatility is our mixing technology. So high efficiency and high share mixers, because especially for making products like ice cream or milk-based beverages or formulated products, you have to have add a lot of ingredients. You have to do a lot of unit operations like heating and chilling. You have to allow some hydration time, and you have to be very precise in terms of the ingredient composition there. So we have mixing technologies which are very versatile. These can be used for again multiple applications like ice cream, recombined milk, milk-based beverages, baby food formulations, and even this is also finding a good utilization in terms of making recombined milk in areas where there is a deficit of fresh milk, especially in the eastern part of India where you don't have a lot of fresh milk. So again, there's a possibility of using these technologies of making recombined milk or reconstitution of milk by using ingredients like milk powder and butter oil and other products, other ingredients. So in terms of sustainability, it also helps that you avoid having multiple equipments for various applications. A single mixer can perform a lot of functions. So you avoid multiple equipments and indirectly you avoid a lot of CIP operations, cleaning operations, uh, consumption of water is reduced, you have lesser downtime, lesser operating cost. One very interesting application in terms of technology advancement into the Indian market is the membrane filtration technology. So This is a cold process for concentrating various milk or milk-based products. Like for example, if you have whey, which is generated during production of cheese or paneer, then you can make whey protein concentration of different grades, right? So we have technologies using nanofiltration, ultrafiltration. So these technologies are used for making concentrates of whey proteins. Then high protein yogurt, because uh, we see a lot of focus on health and wellness. So yogurt typically has been consumed for cooking or for consumption in terms of curd, which is normally the dahi which we manufacture in our house. But how to improve the protein content in yogurt? So we have got membrane filtration technology as one of the application for improving the protein content in the yogurt. We have also seen applications of this technology for manufacturing low lactose milk and other nutrition products out of milk. And in terms of the product quality, why this is playing a very important role is you don't heat the product in this. You have a membrane filtration technology is basically it is done through pressure. So you have a set of membranes and you have different pressures for different applications, and it's a cold process. So you're not heating the milk or any of the ingredients, and you're not spoiling or reducing the nutrition properties of the milk. Now, this technology has also a very interesting application in terms of sustainability. So we are able to reduce significantly a carbon footprint in terms of reduced transportation. Every day we see millions of liters of milk being transported in bulk tankers of say 10 to 25,000 liters a day per tanker. You see a lot of tankers running around transporting milk, even thousand, even in excess of 1,000 kilometers. So what this technology does, when we have a reverse osmosis plant, you can reduce the volume of milk by half just by removing the water content. So typically, whole milk, milk which is having say 12.5% of total solids, with RO plant you can concentrate say to around 25% of total solids. So in practice, what we have done is we have reduced the volume of milk by half, and that has converted your number of tankers into half. So if you are transporting say 100 tankers in a day, you are transporting the same amount of milk by using 50 tankers. And whatever water you have removed from the milk, it is again a good quality water which is can be used again for it's a can be used with some again further processing like RO polisher back into the process. So water has been recovered from milk and again be utilized in the process. uh, in a typical evaporator plant, you see a lot of condensate which is generated and which is again drained. So this is murky condensate. It contains some milk solids. So we have technologies from membrane filtration, which is the RO polisher, and this can be used for recovering water. Even we can recover after recovering the heat, whatever water is remaining, instead of being drained, this water can be recovered and used for some of the process, like CIP or floor cleaning. A lot of chemicals are being generated and drained into the effluent treatment plant. Especially these are generated during the cleaning of the plant. So this technology is again also useful for recovering the CIP chemicals. And in cheese processing, brine is being used, especially for mozzarella cheese manufacturing. So this with this technology, you can have microfiltration and which can be recirculated. The brine can be recirculated, and you need not drain the brine every day and use fresh brine. And I'm very happy to share this with you that we have got good success of already installing some of the technologies in India with some of our customers, and they are very satisfied with the performance. And I think we look for a very good interest from the other customers, because definitely this is helping them in terms of improving their profitability, minimizing the losses, and most importantly, helping in the cause of sustainability. I think that is a very important point as well. High shelf life products we talked about. So we have something called the aseptic processing, which is ultra high temperature UHT processing of milk or milk based products. So again, these plants can be used for multiple purposes. They can be used for milk and milk based products. You can have a lot of value added products like smoothies or milkshakes or juices with fruit particulates. Cream can be also processed, whipping cream or cooking cream, and breakfast cereals like milk with rice or milk with oats. So these can be processed, and when they are packed aseptically, the shelf life we get is from 3 to 6 months at ambient temperatures. So again, we have got different technologies for this type of ultra high temperature treatment technologies. We have got indirect, we have got some products which require very less residence time. We have direct steam infusion systems, and we have got direct steam injection as well. So in terms of how it helps the cause of sustainability, we are giving a high shelf life product, and with processes which has got a very minimal effect in terms of residence time at high temperatures, and very energy efficient systems, because we get a heat recovery of around between 85 to 90%. So even though we are heating the product to say 135 or 140 degrees centigrade temperatures, in practice you are just giving 10% of the heat which is required. And when these products are aseptically processed, we also have to back them with the aseptic packaging lines, and PET bottles. Of course, a lot of debate in terms of whether it is the right solution in terms of how it impacts the environment, because plastic per se is not supposed to be good for the environment. But having said that, we have seen that most of these bottles can be recycled, and a part of it, it is again blended back when they are making the granules, the HTP or the PET granules. And the flexibility these lines offers are, again, you can have flexibility in terms of pack sizes. So in the single line, you can pack volumes from say 100 ml to 2 liters, with some change parts. And these lines can run up to 1 week without stoppage. If you're not changing the product, these lines can run easily up to almost 1 week, and you don't have losses in terms of products. At the start of the production, like the first bottle is good to go into the market, and we have got traceability in terms of from which batch it has been produced or which plant has been produced, from which nozzles this bottle have been filled. So a lot of traceability is there in terms of trying to find out if there is any problem in terms of quality. Now to summarize, how what is the way forward? So we see that the drivers for growth are shift in the consumption pattern from dairy based products, so increasing awareness on health and wellness. Value added products, we are seeing a good growth and the growth potential as well for the future, for the coming decade. So products like paneer, cheese, fermented products, high shelf life products, they are witnessing an increasing demand. Then shift in the purchase pattern by the consumers. So consumers are shifting from unorganized loose supplies to more of packed products which are handled from the organized segment, because if these products are coming from the organized segment, we are assured on the quality and reliability and hygiene of the products. We are seeing, or in fact, we are witnessing, and I think the trend will continue in the future as well, to go for modular units for meat processing. So these plants being modular can even be shifted from one place to the other. Small commercial plants for manufacturing value-added products. So value-added products is being added to the portfolio of milk products by a lot of consumers, and this offers flexibility to improve the product portfolio with minimal investments. For example, if you talk about value-added products like cheese, somebody can start a plant with producing as low as 100 kgs of cheese per hour, a small investment and a very small footprint. And if it can be run for say 10 to 15 hours in a day, it can easily produce say 1 to 1.5 tons of mozzarella cheese per day. So these are plants which are very low in terms of footprints and can be easily installed in the existing plant. Total cost of ownership concept, I think that will be the punchline for the future, because customers have realized that they have to think in the long term. What is the total cost of ownership they get out of the plant? Because the when you talk about technology or technology solutions, there'll be definitely a cost associated with that. But it is an investment for the future, because once you have got the right technology solution, then you are assured that you will have the best product in terms of quality. You will have the least energy consumption. You will have a lot of savings in terms of products, or you will not have any losses. And you will definitely contribute a lot in terms of sustainability, because I think we are all equally responsible to see that we don't contribute much to the carbon emissions, and give it is our also responsibilities to see that we, for the future generations, we have a cleaner environment and a better planet than what we had as of now. So more focus on sustainable solutions, so less emission losses. Water will be a scarce resource going forward. So we have to definitely look for solutions, technology solutions, which will involve less consumption of water and even recycling of water. And whatever water is being generated as an effluent should be bare minimum, and we have a lesser carbon footprint. So I think that covers the presentation part from my side. Now I'll be open to taking any questions if you have.
Thanks a lot, Sachinji. I think like, this was a very good and in-depth introduction to the dairy processing in India, and what kind of products mixes are coming up, what kind of growth we might see, and what kind of technologies that are already present in the Indian market that are being introduced by GIA. So I would just like to like in 2-3 words, I would just like to summarize what you have just talked. So you have talked about dairy. So what I hear as a dairy enthusiast, I hear dairy would still be very much the product that we would be consuming, because there has been a lot of advent of alternates, but dairy is going to stay the most relevant product. There are going to be more and more larger dairy plants. There is going to be more and more talk about nutrition for different age groups, be it through like skim milk powders, be it the whey powder concentrates that are going into infant formulas or to sports nutrition. And then other thing that I also hear, and I'm like, I think this is what I also told you in one of our pre-discussions. You are one of the first person who's talked about sustainability when I'm talking to someone in India.
Yeah.
So I live here in Germany as of now, and it's a very hot topic. And as you already mentioned about the COP26 that is going to happen. So like everyone is talking about sustainability, but somewhere down the line, we also have to ensure, because it's going to be a customer's requirement, because customers, specifically our millennials, are getting so sensitive about sustainability. So it is great to hear that we are up and ready and have the access to technology that is going to produce a sustainable product for our young consumers. So one question that we have received from our audience, and you have already talked about a technology in recombination of milk. So India, as we know, does not have homogeneous milk production. There are some surplus regions and there are some deficit regions. Right. Sometimes we hear that milk trains are moving, and people might feel very proud about that, but it's such a waste of resource because you're actually moving water. So talking about the recombination of milk, what do you see? Because one of our participants asked, how accessible is it? How much? What are the possibilities as of now? Just like share some more light on the current recombination technologies that are there, and like what kind of products can be produced through it.
See, recombination is a technology like whenever you have deficit of milk. Like deficit could be for two reasons. One is in terms of geographical area where you don't have access to fresh milk or you have limited fresh milk, and the other is due to the lean season. Like especially during summer season, we have less of fresh milk as compared to
Mhm.
what we have in the winter season. So recombination is a process in which you add skim ingredients like skim milk powder or butter oil or cream, to manufacture milk. It's natural milk because you're using either skim milk powder or whole milk powder. You're using butter oil or butter, and then this are mixed thoroughly and homogenized and pasteurized, and they are also blended with fresh milk because suppose you have say 80% or 85% availability of fresh milk, and you have a demand which is more than what is available as fresh milk, then this is blended with the fresh milk,
Mhm.
and to meet the quality requirements, also the quantitative requirements in terms of
Mhm.
variety of milk, like
Mhm.
full skim milk or standardized milk or full cream milk. So that's the recombination process where you add the ingredients, mix together,
Mhm.
and manufacture base milk, which can be blended into the milk as well.
Mhm. Thank you for the
Yeah.
answer. And another question that you have talked about, like, is like coming of the advent of the new and mega plants that are coming in. So I assume one of the biggest plant is currently is in that has been set up by GIA is in Gujarat. If I'm not wrong,
Yeah,
if I'm
that's
not
correct.
mistaken.
Yeah.
Where do you
Yeah.
think the next mega plants might come, given the sheer diversity of the geography of India, animal availability, milk availability, um, how saturated the markets are? Like, where do you think, like, where would you suggest one of your, imagine I'm your potential client, where would you suggest me to set up my plant?
I think if you see the trend of milk production state-wise,
Mm-hmm.
you see in the north there are states like UP or Rajasthan,
Mm-hmm.
which has got which are very high in terms of milk production.
Mm-hmm.
So and there's a big market also because North India and very well connected by roads and infrastructure is very good. So we see, of course, Gujarat traditionally has been very strong in dairy, and we have seen that trend continuing till date. Like as you rightly mentioned, the biggest plant which GIA is putting is 3 million liters per day plant, which will
Mm-hmm.
be going live in next couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
So we see that the next plant should come up rather in the north or the western part, or southern part. Of course, east because we would like to put up a plant, but I think the challenge is not having so much fresh or so much surplus milk.
Mm-hmm.
In that sense, I think definitely west we have good presence in terms of
Mm-hmm.
mega plants,
Mm-hmm.
but North India and south to certain extent, south also we have seen big plants coming up.
Yeah.
But yes, the northern part of the Indian market, I think that's where we see the trend should
Mm-hmm.
catch up now.
Yeah. Thank you, Sachinji. Another question that is like very close to my heart because I have seen this happen in the past. A plant was set up, and the person who set up the plant did not understand the seasonality very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the commencing of the plant happened in summer, extreme summer, so like milk was extremely scarce. So if you go about suggesting a client, like how do you talk to them about seasonality of milk?
Yeah.
And how do you suggest them about what kind of product mixes do they produce?
Right. So when we talk to a customer who is interested to put up a plant, we try to
Mhm.
understand, the product portfolio which he has in mind. We also advise him in terms of what is the market and what is the future market is looking in terms of value-added products. And we see what is his collection pattern of milk. So, for example, if he has got a catchment area and when say 100-kilometer radius, so we
Mhm.
can definitely advise him that he can also try and get milk from other states if that's possible because
Mhm.
we have technologies as I explained in the presentation,
Mhm.
membrane filtration technologies. So even if he does not have enough milk in his catchment area, that is
Yeah.
one possibility which the milk can come from neighboring places or slightly far off places. So that's not a challenge anymore that since the milk availability is low, so I have to go low on capacity if the
Yeah.
market is there.
Mhm.
Second part is in terms of value added products. So we definitely advise them that they should think about future and make provisions in the layout, make provision in the utility design so that in case they want to put up any value added product, say 1 or 2 years down the line, they should not be constrained in terms of building or in terms of not having the right utilities, because utilities like boiler, refrigeration, now these are planned once the plant is established. You don't add capacities very frequently in these areas. So the processing part can always be added in future as well. But in terms of the layout, in terms of the building, and in terms of utilities, they have to be prepared for the future as well, so
Yeah.
that they can easily put up the plant in short time without
Mhm.
worrying about whether they have got the space for that or whether they got the utilities for that.
Mhm.
I think planning is important, and planning for future is important as well.
So when you say future, how far forward should I look when I'm setting up a plant? Let's say I'm putting a 40-50 million dollars worth of investment. So how far forward as a consumer, processor should I think? Because you guys look at very fast changing trends
Yeah.
and also changing capacity requirements. So what would you suggest on that side?
We would suggest a time frame of minimum 5 to 10 years, because
Mm-hmm.
you take easily, if you start from a greenfield project,
Mm-hmm.
it takes somewhere around 12 to 15 months for a plant to start from
Mm-hmm.
ground zero.
Yeah.
So we have seen that consumers sometimes plan for capacity expansions, and by the time they are into production, 6 months down the line, their capacity, expanded capacity, the demand is already there. So we tell them that they should think ahead at least 5 to 10 years, if not beyond that. But a 10-year horizon would be definitely advisable on that front.
Yeah. Great. We have a very nice question from one of our participants. He's asking, instead of transporting milk like via trucks or something, can we think of something like pipelines as it is being transported by gas? What would be your take on this?
See, I think the concept is good, but I think we have to find out, milk is a highly perishable product.
Yes.
So if you see the entire value chain, starting from the collection of milk,
Mm-hmm.
the point is it's consumed, you have to
Mm-hmm.
maintain the cold chain,
Yeah.
because if you leave the milk, it will spoil in no time, especially with the ambient conditions we have in India.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So number one, it has to be entirely in the cold chain.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, it has to be, again, you have to clean the plant,
Yeah.
because once the processing is over, you have to clean the plant.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to clean it thoroughly with the CIP regime which we have.
Yeah.
So I think if we are able to find out some practical solution to it,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not now, but in near future, I think
Yeah.
that seems interesting, I think.
Exactly. So I would also like to just share it with our participant who has shared this question. It would actually end up costing us more water. So like sustainability would significantly reduce. So because I'm not sure if you are aware, not aware, a plant has to be cleaned after every process completion. So just imagine a pipeline from which would go to a significant distance would have to be cleaned how many times?
Just to add, Prashant, on that front, the drying technology is doing exactly that. You have
Precisely.
surplus milk.
Yes.
You have surplus milk in some areas, in some seasons. You don't want to restrict your collection of milk because you're not able to utilize that. So you dry the milk, which is a moisture of say around 3.5%. So, and it has got a good shelf life. And then your transportation cost is reduced because you don't have to have a cold chain for storing milk powders.
Yes.
And the milk powder is nothing like, but it's milk. It's pure milk.
Yeah.
And then you add water, and it's milk as it is. So that's what the drying plant is doing. That's why people are looking for big capacity dairy drying plants.
Yeah.
So that they don't have to restrict the flow of milk or the collection of milk.
Yeah. And the advantage of that is like also, as you mentioned, storage. Like how long can we store it?
Exactly.
So I think like whenever you have, and I think it's most of our participants should know, must be knowing that like we have a significant seasonality. So there is a part of this year where we have flush of milk. So we are producing more milk. We convert it into powders and store it. And when we are like going through the lean phase, this is where it is recombined and utilized again. Right. So just talking about a reconstitution plant, because I also get to talk to a lot of people from the deficit regions within our country, or like let's say even some other of the African regions as well. How much would let's say 100,000 liters per day worth of reconstitution plant would cost us?
Okay. So suppose if you want to say manufacture 100,000 liters of milk by recombination, because I think that's the right technology. So you have to use ingredients like milk powders, butter oil.
Yeah.
So these ingredients are made available in the dairy plant, at the premise of dairy plant. Just to give a budget numbers, I think if you're talking about 100,000 liters, so I think should be close to around 5 to 6 million euros. That would be the investment.
Mhm.
Yeah, because
So like
you will have to uh, do the entire operations. It's
mhm.
only that you're not getting the fresh milk,
Yeah.
but you are getting the powders. You have to handle the powders. You have to collect the powders in some bulk storage. You
Mhm.
have to unload the ingredients. You have to mix them, and
Mhm.
again, once you have the mixing which is done, then the
Mhm.
process remains the same. You have to again pasteurize the milk. You have to
Mhm.
homogenize the milk. You have
Yeah.
to chill the milk. You have to store it. You have to pack
Mhm.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think like one big component that is uncertainty, like is the summer and the winter times when cows produce more fat, less fat, that is going to go away. And secondly, unpredictability of some collection related problems. So like when you are not able to go to the market. So
Right.
COVID was one of the very significant showdown where we saw value chain disruptions because milk collection could not happen. And I think this is where this technology comes in to ensure, okay, you can get rid of this collection related problems or like it's variance in the components of the milk, and ensure that like you have always have the certain certainty in the product output and also into the components of the product that is going on. So this is great. Another question, because we only have 4 minutes, and I think like this is also a very beautiful question. It's about the digitalization that is coming in.
Right.
So what do you see? What is the impact of digitalization into our into the dairy value chain, specifically in the processing technology?
Yeah, this is very good question. See, in terms of, I'll talk about the relevance in terms of the technology which we offer.
Mhm.
So most of these plants which I mentioned, whether it's a dairy plant, a powder plant, or liquid milk processing plant, we have these plants which are completely automated. So we have MIS reports which are generated. Now these MIS reports gives the daily production, daily milk which is coming into the plant, how the milk has been distributed to various sections, how much products have been manufactured, what is the byproducts made, how much the utility consumption. So
Mhm.
how much was the steam consumption per day, how much was the chill water consumption, how much was the
Mhm.
power consumption. So all these are generated in terms of automatic reports, MIS. And
Mhm.
these reports are again, the input from these reports can be fetched into the ERP system. So it has
Yeah.
got a seamless handshake with the ERP system. So because customers are already using a ERP system which goes into the pricing of the product as well.
Mhm.
So these inputs can be captured into the ERP system. So that is one which we are already doing as of now.
Mhm.
One another aspect which we see in future as well, a good opportunity is the remote troubleshooting, 24/7 customer support.
Mhm.
Because if there is a plant breakdown or there is a problem in the automation, because we have seen most of the plant running 24/7,
Yeah.
and in remote places like Gujarat, we have got a lot of bigger plants at remote locations.
Mhm.
We are able to support, and the plan is to have a support 24/7 sort of
Mhm.
a helpline,
Mhm.
so that any troubleshooting can be done remotely
Mhm.
without even waiting for the engineer to go to the plant.
Mhm.
So that's one of the MIS reports already being done. We are generating MIS reports. This is the second trend which we see, that if we are putting up mega dairy plants and this has to be
Mhm.
reliable, so that is again, in the short term we will see that happening as well. And I think in the long run, of course, we see also technologies which addictive predict, what we call predictive control systems. Instead of doing the preventive breakdown maintenance or plant maintenance, we'll have diagnostic tools which will tell
Mhm.
us that something may go wrong,
Mhm.
and we need to see, and we need to take advanced action to see that we don't have land up in the problem or situation. So we have opti partners, some very good products which can be used to predict what can go wrong based on the parameters which we see in the plant running
Okay.
condition.
This is great. I think like we still have 1 minute, and there was one question that I wanted to ask because you talked about ultrafiltration technologies, yeah. So reverse osmosis. So, for example, if I have one ultrafiltration unit in my plant, and you talked about like reverse osmosis, creating high value, high protein yogurts and other things, and then in the second segment, you also talked about water retention. So, like for example, if you have any water that is like after CIP, you have detergent in the water, and you're trying to passes through the membrane filtration technology to retrieve the water, so that we are not dumping a lot of detergent into these effluent treatment plants. So if I have one plant, this membrane filtration plant, will it work for milk and as well as for the water with detergent, or I have to set up two separate units?
Yeah. See, we select the application, we select the technology based on the application.
Mhm.
Like when we talk about milk concentration, we
Mhm.
use technology which is called reverse osmosis.
Yeah.
When we talk about increasing the protein content, then we have a combination of nanofiltration and ultrafiltration, or
Mhm.
maybe only ultrafiltration.
Okay. Yeah.
But when we talk about, say, for example, bacterial reduction in brine, we have
Mhm.
microfiltration. So it
Okay.
is basically customized as per the application. So we have no one solution for all,
Okay.
But
Okay.
yes, just to put things in perspective, we can have a concentration plant for whole milk, which can also do skim milk.
Mhm.
Yeah. So these are application based. It's different technologies for different applications.
I think, like, why did I ask you this question? Because we are also very small scale paneer producer here in Germany. So this question is very close, because we also want to implement something, but we are also exploring technologies and what are the potentials for us in the market. I think our users would, or the viewers would have like really gained a lot of insights from your presentation. I would like to thank you and Gia for taking the opportunity and joining us with this for the session.